We're explaining the object reference not set to an instance of an object error, a common problem in ASP.NET web applications, often popping up during the page_preinit event. This error, in simple terms, means you're trying to use something, an object, that hasn't been properly created yet. Think of it like trying to drive a car that hasn't been built. It's not ready to be used. This usually happens in page_preinit because it's one of the very first events that fires when a web page loads, even before controls are fully initialized. 1. The most frequent cause is accessing a controller property before it exists. For example, imagine you have a text box named txtinput, and in page_preinit, you try to read its text property, string user input =txtinput.text. If the txtinput text box isn't created by this point, perhaps it's dynamically added based on some condition, you'll get the error because the program is attempting to use txtinput, which is currently null, nothing. 2. Another reason is accessing a session variable or other object that hasn't been initialized. If you rely on data from the session, like user preferences, in page_preinit, ensure that the session is properly started and the necessary data exists. Trying to read a session variable before it's set will also lead to this error. 3. Sometimes the problem lies in the order of operations. Perhaps you're relying on one control being initialized before another, and the initialization order is incorrect. For example, you might have a dropdown that populates another control. If the dropdown isn't fully loaded when you try to use its selection, you'll face this issue. 4. Incorrect casting can also be a source. Suppose you're trying to cast an object to a specific type, like converting a generic object to a text box, and the object isn't actually of that type, you'll get this error. Always check the object's type before casting. 5. Finally, a less common but significant reason is a bug in a custom control or third-party library you're using. In these cases, you'll likely need to check the control's documentation or contact its developers for support. To fix this, carefully review your page_preinit code. Check if every object you're using is properly initialized before you attempt to access its properties or methods. Use debugging tools to step through your code line by line and examine the state of your objects at each stage. Conditional checks, like if txtinput =null, can prevent this error. Remember, prevention is key. Ensure that objects are created and populated appropriately before you use them in your page_preinit method. Using proper error handling, try-catch blocks, can also help you gracefully handle these situations and present user-friendly error messages instead of a cryptic exception.